Sup dogs, TheOdie here, and we're almost done. Just 2 more tutorials. This one, and then the next one. For today's tutorial, we're going to be learning about parallel processes, Autorun, and event touch. We're even going to build a killer. One that actually chases us, but disappears after X amount of time passes. And here's the best part. After this tutorial, you're honestly good to start inventing on your own. Seriously, in the next part, I'm just going to show you some features here and there that you might want to be mindful of before finalizing your project. But really, with everything that you learned from today onward, you will have everything that you need to start making an RPG Maker horror game. Before we get started, I want to introduce to you a game I'm currently working on. It's called Caster's Trap. It's a puzzle horror game about a kid who enters an abandoned cabin. Except the deeper and deeper he goes in, the more and more he learns that there may be magic that once existed in our world. On my channel are also some developer vlogs, so feel free to check those, and you can even start at any point in time. Thanks. So for today, we're going to learn about the other types of triggers, the event touch, autorun, and parallel process, and how best to use them. Now, I won't be making a cutscene for when we first start the game, but I will make a cutscene for after we manage to escape out of this room and back into the main floor. So what I'm going to create is, of course, as in all horror games, there's got to be some sort of chaser. So, I'll just call this person Killer, double tap on this, and let's look for a good image that'll depict one. This guy looks creepy, this guy looks creepy, but of course, we gotta go with murderous looking clowns. Those are always most terrifying. And of course, you may not have these SF resources, so feel free to choose a different one from maybe evil or monster. I'm gonna go with evil clowns because, well, everyone knows that they're terrifying. Now I want this guy to appear after he goes through this room process over here. So what I'm going to do is go back to this room that we did in the last tutorial, and over here I'm going to scroll down just before the player exit, and I'm going to turn on a switch, so just before he exit, which is right here. And I'm going to create a switch, and I'll call it Trigger Killer. If you hold down Control and Enter, you will automatically hit OK. And the same is true over on this screen, and the same is also true over on this screen. And you can hit Control S to save. Now I'll go back to the main floor, and I'll create my little killer here. So you don't have to make the event within the killer. I'm going to just keep it here so it's all well organized. So I'm going to go to the condition, and we're going to need Trigger Killer. Priority looks good. Everything else looks good. But I want to change the trigger to Autorun. So this is probably where you're going to be mostly confused. The difference between Autorun and Parallel. Autorun starts when the event appears, and Parallel runs cyclically when the event is present. Yeah, I'm not the best at pronouncing words. Anyways, let's hit apply. And we're going to want Autorun because parallel process means that this event will run in the background, so the player will still be able to move while we have a cutscene. And of course, we don't want that. So I'm going to click here just to add some cutscene items with text. Let's see if he has any faces. Awesome. And he will say, hello, hello. And just so we know that he's out to kill the killer, I'm gonna kill you with an exclamation mark. And just so I could show you the other type of trigger event, which is parallel, I'm gonna add another cutscene, or another text rather, where our player will actually go ahead and say, I forgot the text code. I know this clown. If we manage to run for 10 seconds, he'll just disappear. And we hit preview, know where it cuts off. I think the 10 is a good place to start the next line. And just to confirm, there we go. And I just want him to say, time to get moving. Just so the player knows that it's time to start running. And now we will double click this, go into a self switch, because we're done with this cutscene, and we want it to move on to the next one, which is allowing the clown to chase the player and the player to escape. So now we can copy this, paste it, click here, Control A, delete, go to our self switch, make sure it's A, because that's what we turned on over here. But instead, we want the clown to chase the player, and upon touching the player, we'll get a game over screen. So I'm going to just change this type to approach, and we want the speed to be rather fast and the frequency to be the highest. Apply, and we'll go to event touch, because if it's player touch, then the player will have to push themselves onto the event. But if it's event touch, then the event will have to push themselves onto the player. And of course, that's exactly what's going on here. So event touch, apply, and I'll double click here so we can have our cutscene play once the clown catches the player. I'll go to play sound effect, and let's listen to some sounds. Okay, I like /7. And I'm just gonna do an extra few cutscenes to make it sound like he's stabbing him rapidly. Alright, and after some trial and error, I kinda like that. So this is what I got. Now, once the clown catches the player, I actually want the screen to turn black. This way, I don't have to worry about animating the actual stabbing effects. To do that, we just do tint screen and drop it all the way down to 0. And because it's so fast, whether you have this box checked or not does not even matter. So you can hit OK, apply, and after the last stabbing sound effect, let's just play it out a little bit for a little bit more of the dramatics. So I'm gonna give it about 1.5 seconds before we actually dive into Game Over, which is over in tab 3, Game Over. Okay, and we should be good here. Now, of course, I haven't created the 10-second timer yet, but I do want to test it out. So let's just make sure that everything works right. Okay, immediately I realized that I still have my disabled dashing on. Well, definitely want this unchecked so that we can run away from the clown. So Control R, and yes. And I'm gonna put a save here. And then there's the clown. Hello, hello! I'm gonna kill you! I know this clown. If we manage to run for 10 seconds, he'll just disappear. Time to get moving. And there he is. Now you probably noticed something like this. And that's exactly correct. He can't exactly pass through your followers, so it's finally time that we turn him off. But as we can see, the cutscene plays out right for when he does catch you. So let's go into our database, into our system 1, and we'll see all our actors there. We could take these guys and delete them. Alternatively, if you do have a party, then you could go all the way where it says options and uncheck show player followers. Hit OK there. Control R. Now, unfortunately, we will have to start a new game because our save file actually has all of our party and they will still be around. And there, as you have it, it works. That was actually me failing to escape the clown. But hey, it worked out. So we can close this out. So now let's go back into our clown and now create a timer. Instead of self switch A, I'm gonna get rid of this and create another switch. And this one I'll call Killer on the Loose. Remember, you can have spaces in your switches and variable names. Me, as a person, I just prefer not to. Okay, and now we want to go into the second switch, and we just want to change this condition to killer on the loose. Now some of you guys are thinking, why not just add a second one here? And yes, you can do that, but at this point, let me also turn off self switch while I'm at it, by the way. So at this point, remember, RPG Maker will look at your furthest tab out. And we go back to page 1, killer on the loose does not turn on ever until it runs through this event. So once this cutscene plays out, then it turns on the switch, and now we have this event that is active. Hit apply, and okay. And now we gotta create our timer. So actually, we do need our clown one last time. And we go to the very end, and you can also have it before the switch turns on. The order does not matter at this point. So we'll double click that, and we gotta look for a timer, which is under the first tab in control timer. And we'll have it to 10 seconds. Hit OK. Apply. And then OK. And just off to the side somewhere, does not matter because it will be an empty event. We'll double click and we'll call this one control clown timer. Hit apply. Go here. And we know that this turns on once the killer is on the loose. And we'll double click here. A conditional branch. Timer. And once it's less than or equal to, well, 0, that means we're all set. So now we want to double click this, and we just want to have an animation play out. Now I don't know exactly what animation it will be, but we do know that it will be on the killer. But what's very new and unique to MZ is that we can actually view the animation before we actually would have to go into our database just to see which one we want. So this is actually really, really neat. After spending some time searching, I kind of like blind. So I'm going to go with that. And we'll also want to wait for completion and hit OK. Apply. And then, once the animation finishes playing out, we want to create a new switch. And this one will be called vanish killer. And then we'll just have a couple of text boxes to finish out the cutscene. I did it. Hit apply. And of course, we want this to be on parallel process. So this event is actually going to run in the background in practically every fraction of a second. It's going to check to see if the timer has dropped down to 0. And if it does, then it will play all the events on the inside. Now, from my past experience with RPG Maker, I always found it nice to create a little wait for fraction of a second. This way, it's not constantly checking every fraction of the second in the background. It actually gives it a little bit of a pause in between, like a little break for the system to catch up to itself. I found this to be a problem when you create a lot of parallel processes and there's a lot going on in the background, and it can really, really tackle the game engine's RAM or CPU. This was talking about back in the VX Ace or XP days. And MV did a lot better, and now MZ, I can only assume, probably annihilates it almost completely, especially with the hardware of our computers today. So it's very likely that you don't need this. It's just something from my past experience that I really do enjoy having in here. Now with that said, we're actually finished with this. So let's create a new page, have a switch here, and we will have vanish killer on, apply, OK, and to our clown we will also want to do the same. Just make sure that it's on the very last page. Vanish killer. Apply, and we just want to make sure that this is set to through and OK. Reason for that is because if there's some other event somewhere on the map and the clown vanishes over there, then there won't be any sort of interferences. Now I do want to make the clown move up a little bit closer. I think right here is pretty good. And if you do want to give the player a little bit of a head start before the clown starts chasing them, back on page 1, we can create a self switch A, go to page 2, copy, paste, and then go to self switch, have A turn on. We'll want to delete all the insides here, change this to parallel process, and we want to make sure that the autonomous is set to fixed. And then in the contents, we're going to have a wait for every 60 frame is 1 second. I'll give the player 2 full seconds to run around. And then we'll turn off self switch A. Now, if you found this confusing, try to understand and remember that RPG Maker will first look at your latest page, and it will check the conditions. If the conditions are not met, then it goes back another page. And through this process, you'll understand that switch A and killer on the loose is both turned on, so we'll go to page 3, and then it will eventually turn self switch A off. Sorry, forgot to do that. And then finally, it will be on page 2 before disappearing. Now, one more thing I do want to do is adjust the timer to 12 seconds. And OK here, and OK. Control S and Control R. And there was obviously a bug. So let's go back and see what happened. I think I know immediately what happened. Aha! Have my conditions on backward. It should say less than or equal to. And there we have it. Now he's going to try and chase me. And you're going to see that he gets wall stuck. And of course, I did know about this. And if we want to find a way on how we can fix it, well, that will be in the advanced step. And ta-da! Nice, I did it. Now you probably noticed that the clown was still visible and still moving towards that end. And again, this was something I also knew, and I also knew that the timer was going to stay there. So to fix that, we will actually go back to this one here, and immediately we'll want to turn off the timer. And we'll want to actually tick wait for completion to be off. Double click here and instead have a wait. And we're going to have to battle in our heads how long it takes for that animation to fully envelop the clown killer. My estimate is going to say within 20 frames. Of course, this is a trial and error process, but the best way you can do this is actually go into the database, over to the animations, and you can look for that animation that you're playing. Mine is called blind. And just to play it again, and you can actually use the flash over here to get a good idea of how long it takes for the animation to play. So if I were to double click here, and if you see the frame, let's put at frame 20, let's have it flash white very quickly. When you hit play, just look for when it turns white. That's where it turns white, and that's when that part plays out. And it's kind of this trial and error that you battle between. So it looks like at frame 30 is about when it's good. So I'm gonna hit OK and go back into my parallel process. Change this to 30, and now we should be good. Ta-da! And it all worked out. Pretty sweet, right? Now, the last thing you probably want to change is your game over screen and sound effect. You can do that by heading into your database, down to System 1, and over here where it says Game Over, this is the sound. But to change the Game Over image, we'll actually have to go into the game folder, into Image, System, and where it says Game Over, we just need to create another file. Call it Game Over and make sure it's a .png. And that's it. And there you have it. Really easy stuff, honestly. You are officially ready to start making things on your own. You no longer need my help. But in the next part, I'm just going to show you some other features in RPG Maker that you might want to be mindful of before you finally publish your RPG horror game. I'll also show you some event commands here and there, but trust me, after you take a look at just one of them, you will know that you no longer need my help. So congratulations, you're about to finish the basic tutorial. And before I end this video, I just want to give a shout out to my devlogs. I'm making Caster's Trap where I'm learning pixel art, digital art, and you'll even see some more advanced code that you wouldn't really see in this tutorial. So please, do check it out. Or if you're more interested in a shorter format, you can check out my Instagram down below at instagram.com/TheOdieGames. Thank you so much for watching. All I ask for in return is if you guys hit the like button. See you guys in the next one. Later!